What is going on, guys? It's Modded Warfare here. Welcome back to another video. So it appears we have a Christmas miracle on our hands. The 7.02 jailbreak has finally been released. We always knew that this was coming because the 6.72 jailbreak, or the kernel exploit for 6.72, works all the way up to 7.02 and has done since it released. The only reason why we were limited to 6.72 was because we needed the WebKit exploit to actually implement the kernel exploit. So without a WebKit exploit for 7.02, then we weren't able to, jailbreak 7.02. So the latest WebKit exploit before was 6.72, which is why that was the latest jailbreak that we had access to. However, now there is a new WebKit exploit that's been released that works on 7.02. So now we have a full jailbreak for 7.02. So in this video, I just want to give you guys my first impressions and my recommendations here at this early stage of the exploit. So first of all, obviously I wouldn't recommend anybody updates to 7.02 yet. Give it some time. The early impressions of this exploit were that it had only a 10% success rate. So that means very, very unstable. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't tried the jailbreak yet myself. So obviously, if you're on 6.72, stay on 6.72 right now. If you're on 5.05, stay on 5.05. You'll still benefit from the 7.02 jailbreak in the sense that any new games that you can now run, like Resident Evil 3 Remake, for example, they'll be backported to work on 6.72 and 5.05. So you don't really need to update if you're already on a previous jailbreak. This is mainly for people who, unfortunately, in the situation where they were on 7.00, 7.01, or 7.02 when the 6.72 jailbreak came out, and they've been waiting for the 7.02 jailbreak for almost 6 months now. But luckily, it is finally here. So people on those firmware versions will now be able to jailbreak their PS4, even if it only has a 10% success rate right now. And if it hasn't already been improved, it will be improved eventually. I'm sure the stability will improve. Just like with 6.72 when it first launched, the stability was all over the place. It's still not a very stable jailbreak in general right now, but generally, if you compare it to when it first came out, the 6.72 jailbreak was very, very unstable to begin with. Like, I remember it took about 1 in every 10 attempts, or maybe not quite, maybe 1 in every 8 attempts on my PS4 to actually get the exploit to work without crashing. Now it will actually like crash 1 in every 7 attempts or so. So it works, 7 out of 10 times. So it's definitely been improved a lot since the beginning. So hopefully the same thing will happen here with 7.02. It may already be more stable than when it first launched already. Who knows? Yeah, obviously a lot of the exploit sites haven't been updated yet. Lethal's host, Alizev's host, they haven't been updated to add the 7.02 versions of all the payloads yet. So again, just wait for that to happen. Once that happens, I'll update one of my PS4s and give the exploit a try, and then I'll have a better idea of, whether or not it's worth updating to it, or if it's very unstable and not worth it yet. So right now, just hold back and wait for some more information on that. Generally, the advantages of this jailbreak right here, in terms of newer games that you can run and being able to jailbreak more PS4s, because obviously a higher firmware means more PS4s are now jailbreakable. So generally, looking at this, if we take a look at the 6.72 exploit, so you can see that the release date of this firmware was July 2019. And that means that the next update that came out after 6.72, 7.00, which was October 2019, that basically meant that if you wanted to get a jailbroken PS4, you needed to get a PS4 that was manufactured around about this date, October 2019 or before then. And then it would be on 6.72 or lower so that you could do the jailbreak. And for games as well, it meant that, when it comes to what games you can actually run on 6.72, then you just had to make sure that the game was released, in October 2019 or before then, and then it will be runnable on 6.72. So comparing that to what we have now with 7.02, 7.02 came out in December 2019. And the next update that came out after that, of course, is 7.50, which was released in April 2020. So that means that any game that came out in April 2020 or before then will be runnable in 7.02. And if you want to get a jailbroken PS4, you just need to get a PS4 that was manufactured around this date or before then, and it will be you know, on 7.02 or lower, and it will therefore be jailbreakable. Just get a console that's bundled with a game that came out around about this date or before then, and then it will be guaranteed to be on 7.02 or lower so that you can do the jailbreak. And again, for people who are unfamiliar with PS4 jailbreaks, if you've updated past 7.02, there's no way of downgrading basically. So if you're on a higher firmware than 7.02, there's no way of going back down to 7.02. So that's why when you're buying a console, you need to make sure the console already comes on that lower firmware version. So yeah, that's basically it. So obviously on 6.72, 5.05, you'll get the back ports so that any new games like Resident Evil 3 will be runnable on 6.72 and 5.05 anyway. There's really no rush to do this update. You should only do this update if you're on firmware version 7, 7.01 or 7.02. Then do the jailbreak because you don't have any other options. But for people on 6.72 and 5.05, just stay where you are right now. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So if this jailbreak turns out to be just as stable as 6.72 in the future, then I will probably do a video. I'll be doing a video on updating from 6.72 to 7.02. I'll be doing a video basically. I'll probably have to redo the whole jailbreak tutorial series that I did for 6.72. Kind of having a bit of a crisis moment about that at the moment, because I'm like, holy crap, all those videos, basically I have to redo them all for 7.02 once that jailbreak comes out. But hey, it's more content, so nothing wrong with that, I guess. It's fine, everything's fine. So within the next week or so, if you see a video from me that's a video on, you know, jailbreaking 7.02, a full 7.02 jailbreak tutorial, then you know that it's just as stable pretty much as 6.72 and that you're safe to update from 6.72 to 7.02. If you don't see a tutorial like that from me, then that basically means that the jailbreak is too unstable and not really worth updating to yet. And if there's any other kind of major developments, I will make another video to inform you guys about it. But yeah, that's basically it. We have a 7.02 jailbreak. It's a nice Christmas gift. Of course, the WebKit was released by this guy right here, which is pretty awesome. Kudos to him. One of the interesting things, though, to me is now that we have this new WebKit, and sce.party hasn't really been updated with any additional information about this yet. But what's interesting to me is, okay, so this WebKit now works on 7.02, but how far does this WebKit work? Because even though the kernel exploit only works up to 7.02, if the WebKit exploit works higher, up to 7.50 or 8.00, then yeah, that's a really good position for PS4 jailbreaking to be in, because that just means we need a new kernel exploit, because if we already have the WebKit exploit, we just need a new kernel exploit in order to get a jailbreak on even higher firmwares like 7.50 and 8.00. So that could happen, especially we've seen that the Flow, the person who released the 6.72 kernel exploit, he released it by basically reporting it to Sony on HackerOne. He got a $10,000 bounty for it. He requested the information be disclosed. That's how everybody found out about it, and how we now have the 6.72 and now the 7.02 jailbreak. Is thanks to him. But not too long ago, he also reported another bug to Sony that hasn't been disclosed yet, and he also got another $10,000 bounty for that one as well. So the question is that another kernel exploit, since he got paid the same amount as he got last time for the last kernel exploit that he reported to Sony? But this time he might not request that it gets disclosed, because he's kind of not too happy with the PS4 jailbreaking scene. A lot of the people in it for kind of harassing him the first time, you know, just people being desperate to get the exploit and kind of having a go at him for saying that he was going to release an exploit months earlier and nothing happened for a long time. But yeah, you know, it's unfortunate that people do that. So if this is another kernel exploit, again, this is all speculation. If this is another kernel exploit that the Flow has discovered, then there's a chance that he might just not request that Sony disclose it, which wouldn't be great. But you know, obviously it's his right to do that, I suppose. Hopefully he will maybe change his mind if that is the case, because it would be awesome to get a 7.50 jailbreak or an 8.00 jailbreak. Possibly, if we're talking about an 8.00 jailbreak, we could even be talking about a potential PS5 jailbreak on the base firmware for the PS5. So anyway, again, this is all speculation, just kind of where my head's at right now. But it's looking promising. If this WebKit works higher than 7.02 and the Flow reported a new kernel exploit on a higher firmware to Sony. If that gets disclosed, then we could see another jailbreak. So the chances of having another jailbreak even after 7.02 are looking fairly promising, I would say, at this stage. But again, it's speculation. It could be a very long time before we see another jailbreak on an even higher firmware, or it might not be that long. It might just be another few months. So yeah, anyway, that's basically it, guys. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This is a very interesting development. It's nice that we have a new jailbreak. I'm not as excited as I was, obviously, with the 6.72 jailbreak, because that was such a long time that we didn't have a new jailbreak from 5.05 to 6.72, whereas going from 6.72 to 7.02 is only a couple of firmware versions higher. So it's not as big of a deal, but it is still obviously, you know, awesome. It's great that we now have another jailbreak for an even higher firmware. So yeah, anyway, I'm excited. Hopefully you guys are excited about it, and we'll follow this as it develops. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one.